I just want to give a shout out to all my homies.
Let's not give a little shout out to our homies.
Just because we have any friend doesn't mean we can't say our
AKA Teacher Boy.
She's part of the hater crew.
We trying to call out the homies.
Hi, this is Lizzett. You're listening to The Morning Buzz on Radio.org. Good morning. You're listening to The Morning Buzz on Radio.org. I am your host, Lizzett, and today we're here with Kayleigh and Mr. P in the back. So for today's show, it's a usual Lizzett show, short and sweet, just how I like it. And we're going to start off with our headline news. So starting off, Kayleigh's going to talk about the Pope and his final goodbyes.
Well, the former Pope Benedict XVI pledged unconditional obedience to the next Pope in his final meeting with the Cardinals, who will actually be picking his successor after he stands down later this afternoon. He says, "I will continue to serve you in prayer, particularly in the coming days, as the Cardinals work to select a new pontiff," he says. After nearly 8 tumultuous years as the head of the world's 1.2 billion Catholics, Benedict XVI has made an almost unprecedented decision to resign. As we said in earlier shows, it's been 600 years since the last Pope has actually retired. There are 115 cardinals who are eligible to vote for the next Pope, says according to a Vatican spokesman. And actually, when he was saying goodbye, not all the cardinals who will vote for the next Pope are actually in Rome right now.
Right. There was an article also on his retirement package, and they would say, how does your retirement package compare with the Pope's? And he gets a pretty nice package, couple, I think 3,000 or 4,000 a month, plus free room and board and meals, and so it's not bad. So.
Okay, well, our next headline is a very interesting story. In Colorado, there is a 6-year-old little girl who is, in record, a girl, but in reality, she was born into a boy's body.
What did they go? All right, we actually said that story yesterday, and we had to kind of censor that. So let's kind of we already did that yesterday. All right, so
yeah.
all right, so let's go on, okay?
Alrighty. So, well, we're going to move on to Today in History with Kayleigh.
In 1993, federal agents raided the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. In 1987, Gorbachev called for a nuclear weapons treaty. In 1975, a subway crash in London kills 43 people. And in 1953, Watson and Crick discovered the chemical structure of DNA. On this day in 1953, Cambridge University scientists James D. Watson and Francis H.C. Crick announced that they had finally determined the double helix structure of the DNA, which is the molecule containing human genes, which could be considered the building block of all of our DNA.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. That's very you know, the building blocks of DNA, it's amazing what they can do now. They can trace your, great grandfather back 500 years just by if they find a little bone or something. So it's amazing. So we're now going to go on to what, Lizzett, our feature?
Our feature for the day, which is the top 10 worst presidents of America.
And Lizette's very excited about this feature.
So excited.
You can tell by her voice that she's been really thinking about this and presenting it. But this is a Mr. P feature, which we're going to complete. Yesterday we talked about the best presidents. Today, the worst president. So go ahead, Lizzett.
Well, Kayleigh is going to give us a list. Kayleigh.
Well, starting off with number 5, Andrew Johnson. It was actually Johnson who infamously declared the United States is, I quote, "a country for white men, and by God, as long as I'm president, it shall be a country for white men." keep in mind, this is after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, who had spent most of his life and term to the end of slavery's atrocities and reconnect the nation after the Civil War. Such blatant disrespect for the common good actually infected Johnson's administration, which created the Jim Crow nightmare, which was a series of anti-black laws. Then, with a combination of the 14th Amendment, which provides equal protection for everyone, and that did so much to condemn him, very much deserved shame and scorn. And he even once reportedly claimed that God had cleared Lincoln out of the way so he could become president.
Wow.
That's
serious stuff.
That's really bad.
That's really disrespectful.
And it's so ironic because Lincoln gave his life basically for the slavery and Emancipation Proclamation, and for Johnson to just overturn everything is really so contradictory and ironic.
Yeah.
I'd be a slave right now.
Why would you be a slave right now?
Because I'm black.
Okay.
Actually, I'm not black. I'm Cuban, but
Right.
that still counts, right?
I don't know. Whatever you say.
I think maybe you could, if the slavery was still intact in the States, maybe.
Maybe I would still be in Cuba. Oh wait, I wasn't born in Cuba. Never mind. Okay, moving on. Next.
Number 4, Millard Fillmore. When Millard Fillmore took office in 1850, slave owners had a problem. When slaves would escape to free states, law enforcement agencies in the states, like many of the states in the North, actually refused to return the slaves to their owners. Fillmore had claimed to detest and hate slavery, but consistently ended up supporting it. He had the Fugitive Slave Act of 1853 passed to remedy the problem, which actually not only required free states to return slaves to their owners, but also made it a federal crime to not assist in doing so. Under the Fugitive Slave Act, hosting a fugitive slave in one's property became extremely dangerous. And his bigotry wasn't just limited to African Americans. He was also noted for his prejudice against the growing number of Irish Catholic immigrants, which they came to the States because of the Irish potato famine. And it made him, listening to all this prejudice against other people, made him extremely popular in the native circles.
And what year was Millard Fillmore?
1850.
1850.
So right before the Civil War.
Okay. I think he was, if you ever saw the film Gangs of New York, he was the president during that time. And you could see the prejudice that what they considered the Native Americans had against the Irish immigrants at that time. So the only thing that Millard Fillmore that I knew about is they had a concert venue in New York City called Fillmore East, which was very popular during the 60s, late 60s and early 70s. Fillmore East, Fillmore West, Billy Graham. So they had that was his claim to fame. Okay, what as we go down, let's go.
In our top 3, we have Herbert Hoover.
Right.
Hoover is basically hard proof that trained engineers are actually capable of making things run not just more ineffectively, but nightmarishly as well.
Right.
His lazy approach to the Great Depression is routinely referred to when running down his significant list of disappointments, but even revisionists can probably agree that he utterly failed to institute the reforms they think or wish he reportedly wanted to make. Hoover believed that government directly assisting its disenfranchised, which during his time was actually needed more vigorous labor than our own right now, was actually equal to enabling an addiction. For this poor economic philosophy, he was hammered by Franklin Roosevelt in the 1932 election and ideologically shamed during Roosevelt's next 3 terms in which he got the country out of the Great Depression.
Right, the philosophy of Hoover was a kind of a hands-off approach, did not want to put too much government infusion into the problem, which really it needed. I really don't know the whole dynamics of it, but Hoover is
he
not
was
well
in
regarded.
office for 2 months, and
Right.
then Black Tuesday happened.
Right.
It just took 2 months for that to happen.
Right. So he's not regarded very highly, mainly due to ineffective activity on his part. So what he really wanted to do will remain mysterious, I guess. But did you ever hear of the term Hooverville?
Yeah, the shanty towns, like there was one in Central Park,
Right.
and it was huge,
Right.
and they called them Hoovervilles.
Right.
It was because it was the people who had lost everything due to the
Right.
Great Depression. They named it after their president because he wasn't doing anything.
Right. There was a movie called, I believe, Godfrey, 1936, that showed Hooverville, and also a couple of years ago, a movie called Cinderella Man, about James J. Braddock, who was a heavyweight champion that came from North Bergen. They showed Hooverville too, which was, as you said, just some shanty shacks next to Central Park, or in Central Park. Okay, well, who else do we have?
Top two. Number 2 is Warden Harding.
Right.
Warden Harding had a foundational, corrupted administration who major benchmark was the Teapot Dome scandal, which was a oil preservation scam that enriched his really long list of basically cronies,
Right.
who in turn compromised his administration due to into the historical trash bag.
Right.
Harding and his out-of-control administration more or less founded the modern corporatism and consumption that we actually just accept today as standard corporating procedure.
Right.
Not even his allegedly significant infidelities and raunchy parties can actually make him cool again.
Right. He just epitomized corruption, the Teapot Dome scandal, his dalliances, his basically totally fraudulent government, and his 2 years he died in office, and it really set the standard, set the path really for the Roaring '20s, which was an age of excess. And
It was also he was also I guess with the way he almost created corporatism, kind of paved the way for industrialism, and also kind of led to the Great Depression because excess and corporatism don't work well.
Okay.
At number 1, we have Richard Nixon.
All right.
Here is the tell. The best thing anyone can say about Richard Nixon is that he actually left office. From ridiculously escalating the Vietnam War to not only creating the Watergate incident and the famous lines, "I am not a crook."
Right.
He was basically, from my list, the worst president. I also made some rather colorful comments about most of the demographics in the nation, like the Irish, the Jews, the African Americans. He had a zero tolerance for almost anyone. And the fact that a black president now occupies the White House was kicked out of greatest testimony of Richard Nixon's paranoia and madness.
Well, to be fair to Richard Nixon, he did have some accomplishments, mainly internationally with China and Russia.
Yeah, he had talks with Russia. He opened trade agreements, but with China, like his foreign policy was really well, but his domestic policies were horrible.
And he continued the Vietnam War. He came into office saying he had a secret plan to end the war. Well, that war didn't end till 1975, so that secret plan really was very secret because actually the war escalated up until maybe 72, 73.
Like, he not only just let it go on, but he escalated it from what it was.
Right. And also, he did not probably instigate the Watergate break-in, but he did cover it up.
Yeah.
And he actually won. The Watergate was not needed at all because he beat McGovern almost by 20 percentage points, won every state outside of Massachusetts and South Dakota. So it wasn't necessary.
It was a sign of his paranoia.
He was paranoid, yes, and it was unfortunate, but he did resign. He was the only president to resign in office. He faced impeachment, and
like they even made giant masks of his face
right.
for everyone to wear, and there are pictures of people like on the White House lawn wearing his masks.
Right. Yeah. So, unfortunately, his international contributions are not going to be remembered as much as what he did domestically. And again, he came into office because of Vietnam. Hubert Humphrey probably would have won if the Vietnam War was ending or was going to end. But during that time, there was a great divide in the American population, and he came into office because of that, and really took so much longer than I think it really needed to. So anyway, that's number one, and thanks for the information, Kayleigh. We just went over the worst presidents. Do we have any more, or that's it?
Well, we all know George Bush was bad.
Yeah.
Yes, George wasn't the best, I don't think.
More time has to pass
what?
before. I think more time is going to pass. The more time passes, the worse he's going to look.
Yeah, but he, to be fair, his whole presidency was
A joke?
No, not a joke. I mean, it was imploded upon by the 9/11, and everything after 9/11. He just was consumed by security of the United States, and it just affected everything he did. But again, I didn't think that his 8 years in office was particularly effective, and I wonder what our country would be like if Al Gore had gotten in, which he probably should have in 2000, but we'd probably be a little bit different country right now, but it's the way it went.
Yep.
All right, so let's end our show with what?
The weather?
The weather, okay.
Right now it is 45 degrees and it feels like 41. It is cloudy. Today you can expect mostly cloudy with temperatures setting near the mid-40s. Winds coming from the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow there's supposed to be sunshine, the high 47. Winds northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Okay,
well, thank you, Kayleigh. Lizzett, you want to wrap up the show?
Yep, that was our short, little boring, sweet
boring
show.
Thank you, Lizzett.
With the lovely topic pick from Mr. P.
Right.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Well, I think Kayleigh nailed it.